will use this day for demonstration purposes. On April 27th, a Saturday, 5 companies' employees gathered together to dismantle the tower crane that was constructing the new Google building near Lake Union. The 5 companies were Seabird Construction, who supplied the tower crane operator, Omega Rigging and Machinery Company, who supplied the mobile crane, which is a crane that can drive in on wheels and move around the site, and the mobile crane operator, GLI Construction, who was the general contractor who had leased the tower crane and had overall control of the site, Morrow Equipment Company, who supplied the crane to GLI and also supplied a qualified technician to ensure the dismantling procedures went correctly, and Northwest Tower Crane Service, who supplied the crew that did the actual dismantling work of the tower crane. The first thing they did that morning was have a pre-test meeting where all the companies, all the crews involved discussed the project for the day. At this pre-test meeting, they did not review the manufacturer's procedures. After this, they began the disassembly of the crane. The first things they removed were the jib, the counter jib, and hoisting apparatus from the crane. These activities took most of the morning, and they were all accomplished without any incidents. The work went well. The weather during this time was pretty clear and sunny without a lot of wind. The next item they removed was the tower mast section. They removed this section, and while they were removing it, they began loosening bolts for the cab slewing assembly, which is this component that allows the crane to rotate and contains the controls. The next thing they attempted to remove was the slewing cab assembly. As they were attempting to remove it, it became stuck. They weren't able to get it removed. Because of that, they had to unhook from it and reconfigure the mobile crane to gain additional capacity. While they were doing that, the crews began to remove pins and sleeves from the structure of the crane. So this is a pin and sleeve of the type that they were using on this tower crane. The function of these is to bolt sections of the tower together. They go through these slots. They tighten up the pin, it applies torque to the sleeve, which makes it spread out and locks the tower into a rigid configuration. When this tower is properly pinned, it acts like one solid structure, and all forces directed against it from loading of the crane or from wind are directed downward into the base of the crane and dispersed through the ground. Once those pins are removed, each tower segment has free play from the other. This can create a lean, which can cause leverage issues and gravitational issues, as well as allowing stresses to be applied to the sides of the structure instead of being directed down into the base. At this point, the mobile crane had reconfigured, but the anemometer on it, which is the wind gauge, was registering wind gusts up to 20 miles per hour. For this configuration of the mobile crane, it could only operate at 13.5 miles per hour wind speed, so they had to delay returning to operation at that time. At 3:26, a wind gust over 45 miles per hour came through the job site. Weather reports indicated that it may be at 49 miles per hour. The wind gauge on the mobile crane was maxed out. There were sandbagged street sign barricades that were blown down the street from the force of this wind. And when that wind impacted the tower crane, it allowed too much stress to be placed on the sides of the tower due to the removal of the pins. And the metal structure of the tower tore at that point, allowing the crane to collapse. As you can see from these pictures, when the crane collapsed, the section separated due to not having the pins and sleeves in place, and it fell in pieces. Here we can clearly see the pins and sleeves that were removed from the structure. We can see that there was no tearing to indicate that any of the pins were in place. Our subsequent investigation found that of all the pins and sleeves in the section of the tower crane at 40-foot intervals, only one pin and sleeve remained, and one sleeve alone was in one other position. Nearly 50 pins and sleeves were removed. When the crane fell, there were 2 iron workers at the top of the crane that fell with it into the street below and passed away. 2 sections of the crane tumbled into the street and crushed several cars, and 2 members of the public were killed as well. Our inspectors arrived on the scene at 4:45 p.m. and began this investigation.